Alright guys, so you've seen the first video with my bookshelf tour. Now I'll give you a quick tour of the room itself. So if we come in here, I'll give you a quick tour of the office/study, and every office study needs a comfy couch to begin with. So nice comfy couch there. Here is my workstation here where I do my day job. So I've got everything I actually could possibly need here. Sweet view out the window on a beautiful summer day like today. And I'll just give you a sweeping pan shot of the shelves. Goes right around 2 walls. And now I'll give you a closer look at the collection. So my Steadicam skills aren't the best, but we'll start with the first shelf of the fantasy section here. So I've got a Wolverine novel there that I'll get around to reading, some Neil Gaiman. I wanted to start the David Farland's series there. I've got the first Raymond E. Feist trilogy, some Jim Butcher's, which I've been enjoying. I've still got to read Summer Night. And I've got the first book in The Faithful and the Fallen, Malice, a couple of Tad Williams's books, which I'm hoping to get into next year. Dragonlance, and Empire of the Vampire, which is one of the best books of this year. The second shelf, we have X-Wing Rogue Squadron in June. I do want to get into a little bit of science fiction this year, and we've got the full set of Stephen Erickson's Malazan Book of the Fallen, currently up to Midnight Tides, which I plan on starting in January. And I've got a beautiful edition of Lord of the Rings here that I picked up for $5, which was a real bargain. Next shelf we have a couple of Warhammer books, Realm Gate Wars and The Rise of Nagash, and complete set of my Wheel of Time books, apart from New Spring, which I still have to get. And then we've got The Demon Cycle by Peter V. Brett, the Song of Ice and Fire, which I brought in a box set recently, and we've got the Stormlight Archive, the first couple of volumes of that, which I plan on starting next year as well, and the first book of the Rye Revelations. And a couple more below, we've got Terry Goodkind's Sword of Truth series, the first 3, and I've got the first trilogy of Terry Brooks's Shannara series, and you can see a bit of blank space there with room for more, which I fully intend on growing that section. Moving on, we have our crime section here, a bit of Linda LaPlante. That was a 6-book set that I bought really cheaply on Facebook Marketplace. And we've got Chris Hammer, a really good Australian crime author, a couple of John Connollys. We've got Greg Iles, he's a very underrated author. That's the Pen Cage series. Then I've got some Michael Connolly and Stuart McBride, which is another author I want to try next year. And complete set, well almost complete set of Peter James's Roy Grace novels. I'm only missing the last Peter James novel that got released earlier this year. And then we move into Chris Carter, which I'm going to do a segment on Chris Carter early next year. I think he deserves a mention, and I will be ranking his books in order. So look out for that. And then we've got James Patterson. We've got the Michael Bennett series here, and then we move into the Private series and Alex Cross, and more Alex Cross, NYPD Red, and some of the James Patterson standalones here. Some may think I have a James Patterson problem, and they're probably right, but I like the books. They read very quickly, and yeah, that's why I like them. They're quick, entertaining reads. Got a few more here, and a few more here, and a couple down here. I've got a bit of vacant space, which will almost pretty much be filled next year. And then we go into some Jonathan Kellerman's Alex Delaware series. And some more down here, and even more still down here. And moving up into the next section. Now, another underrated author we have here is R.J. Ellery. He's written about 12 or 13 novels, which they're loosely crime-based, but they're very well written and very thought-provoking as well. I remember reading Candlemoth a few years ago, which was the first one, and got me hooked with his work, and just need to get around to buying more of his. Some Alex Carver, some Anne Cleeves, and then we move into some psychological thriller books. That one there by Stephen Chbosky, The Imaginary Friend, that was a freakish read. That yeah, that was really weird, but a great read from last year. Couple of prominent authors here. Ali Reynolds, Shiver, that was a great book from last year as well. Really enjoyed that one. And we've got the Carte Blanche, the first 007 adventure written by Jeffrey Deaver. We've got Rob Galbraith's The Cuckoo's Calling. I want to start that crime series as well. Then we move into a few here by some good authors as well. C.J. Tudor, J.P. Delaney, T.M. Logan, another excellent author, and some Karen Rose, which are my wife's books, those ones. We'll get around to reading those one day. And we've got the man himself, Lee Child, one of my all-time favourite thriller writers. And we have Mark Dawson, which I've mentioned in previous videos, and a couple of odd ones here before we get into the Matthew Riley section. You can see the black hardbacks there were limited editions I purchased quite a few years ago, which are awesome. And then we move into the Jack West Jr. series here, which the thing I love the most is all the hardbacks match spine out. Some Nelson DeMille, another great author, and into the Clive Cussler section here, which I've been reading since I was 15 years old, the Dirk Pitt series in particular. It's actually funny, I was going through a box of books to put on the shelves, and it's just amazing when you come across them and you just happen to thumb through it and you look at the first page and you actually see a beautiful message written to me by my wife for our second anniversary, I think that was. So that was always nice. Some more hardbacks here. And then we move into the Tom Clancy section, where I have every Jack Ryan novel and every Jack Ryan Jr. novel. Awesome little collection this. Great books. And then we have Robert Ludlum's Bourne trilogy, and then we move into Dean Koontz, which he's such an underrated author. These small paperbacks that you can see here are my wife's books. There's a vacant spot there where I'm currently reading Shattered, which is Dean Koontz's second novel. Then we move up into some of the later stuff, which are the ones I own. Odd Thomas. A lot of the spines match, guys, which is what I really like with collecting books. And we've got a couple of hardbacks here as well of his early novels. And the Dean Koontz biography as well, which was a ripping read. Quite a few years ago I read that cover to cover in only a few sittings. And then we get into Stephen King. So I've got the individual Green Mile books, they were my wife's. And I've got the Green Mile bind up there. A couple of really retro covers for some of his books here. And you can see these ones here in particular, from Thinner to Salem's Lot. These were the Words are his power editions from the late 80s, early 90s. Now, coming up to these multicoloured covers here, I'm going to mention these for a minute because a few years ago, Stephen King released, or Hachette, his Australian distributor, released some beautiful anniversary editions of some of his works. Now, there are 4 more that I do need to get, but just take a look at this. A lot of my American friends will recognise the font that Stephen King has written in. Now, that's pays tribute to the early New English Library editions of his books. So they've kept that retro look. Just straighten that up again. Beautiful editions, those. So there's still The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, Rose Madder, and Misery, and Carrie, all in that same format, which I fully intend on collecting. Some more Stephen King. The Dark Tower, really nice set that I got a few years ago. And some book club edition hardbacks there. That's one of my favourite editions of the Barkman books. And then we move into the trade paperbacks of his later stuff. And then the vintage hardbacks down on the bottom shelf. Before we move up into a couple more Stephen King hardbacks here. And then, quite appropriately, I've displayed the Joe Hill books next to his dad. And the horror section, we have Clive Barker, Bentley Little, another underrated author. Some Australian authors here, Carnies and the Mother by Brett McBean and Martin Livings. We have, you can see this one here, Devil Dolls and Duplicates. That's a anthology, and I've got a story published in there, which I'll tell you about sometime. I've got The Book Thief there. It doesn't really belong there. It's just, you know, because I'm starting to delve into a bit of general fiction here and there. That's its temporary home until I find another section for it. And we've got a bit of Richard Lehman. These ones here are the 2-volume editions, which are very rare to find as well. They look great. And we have some Three Investigators and Hardy Boys. Now, these Hardy Boys hardbacks here, they're the Collins editions, which I'm slowly collecting, but they're not cheap. And then we move into a bit of non-fiction. I've got some chess books there and Stephen King reference books. But that, my friends, is my collection. And this space is just, it's such a nice space to be in. You're surrounded by books. What could be better? So there you have it.